Okay, welcome back to members of 121 Community Church in Grapevine, Texas, and our ongoing study in A Philosophy of Religion by Edgar Sheffield Brightman, dated 1940. We have looked at the objective answer to the theodicy problem. We have looked at the subjective answer to the theodicy problem, and now those two combined lead to the positing of the notion of immortality. And so this lesson we're going to take a look at that one more moment of the subjective side of theodicy, and then we're going to lead into the concept of immortality. In this lesson we'll look at pages 380 to 410. We'll begin with block 1, where Brightman looks at freedom. Freedom equals choice of mechanism in order to enable purpose. And purpose is a complex series of choices. So freedom is saying yes or saying no to the given content. Freedom is based on the memory of previous experience, the memory of previous logic of faith moments, and the environment. So basically, freedom is our participation in the control of the given. But it is also participation in a teleology, in note 2. The logic of faith unifies and interprets the world. We confront an experience with teleosis factors and dysteleological factors. And so we take up our logic of faith as experimental posited purpose, which will guide the given mechanisms toward cohesive order, toward that coherence of value. Therefore, Brightman says the objective principle of order and the subjective posited ideal both combine together to direct those axiogenetic tendencies into becoming axiosoteric event. I'll say that again because it summarizes the previous lesson and this first block here. The objective principle of order and the subjective posited ideal both combine to direct axiogenetic tendencies unto becoming axiosoteric event. That's where Brightman has taken us thus far. He does look at the community. Living religion is social in its aim. We share a common devotion, we share a common aspiration, and the community of living religion is constituted by its eschatological purpose. Now, under freedom and time, all experience moves toward a future. The experimental posited ideal provides guidance of time as a telos aim. And the ideal of rationality implies that this process is an ongoing, inexhaustible exploration, always seeking out new forms of concretion for value. Creative divine purpose is the category that abbreviates all concepts for the telos of freedom. We participate in the creative divine purpose through our logic of faith. The eternal is that which is true in all times and posited in all times. Posited objectively by God, posited subjectively by believers. The eternal is that which is true in all times and posited at all times. So this first moment really gives us kind of a snapshot of how far we've come in discussing the theodicy problem. And now we can say, well, if that is true, if what Brightman is saying is true, that there is the objective principle of order and the subjective posited ideal that actualize axiosoteric event, then we can seriously take a look now at the concept of immortality in block 2. And Brightman says that immortality should be understood as an extension of our experience of purpose, our conscious experience of purpose. Faith in immortality is based on our experience of purpose. Our life is one of uncompleted positive purpose that still seeks for fulfillment and completion. Purpose is the most constant feature of existence, says Brightman. In the world of complexity, purpose is the most constant feature of existence within the world of complexity. Cosmic purpose may cause personal consciousness to continue after death. So cosmic consciousness encloses within itself individual personal consciousness of the believer, and in that way, personal consciousness is taken up into the future of cosmic purpose. Our logic of faith is taken up into the overall objective cosmic working will of God as purpose, as cosmic purpose. Then Brightman gives us 7 axioms. Sensation is not the criterion of truth. The experience of value provides positive evidence of immortality. There's no universal law that what begins must end. Scientific opinion outside its field of study is unreliable, and mere desire cannot be a test for truth either. Change in biological life from one type to another cannot be final evidence. Influence of mind does contribute, but is not a final proof of immortality. Then he looks at faith based on revelation. Revelation must be tested, however, by all available means. If materialism is true, then there's no basis for immortality. But for Brightman, conscious experience is not a product of physiological matter. It's not a product of the brain. It's not a neural correlate. Therefore, conscious experience refutes materialism. So this new emergence of neural correlate theory, Brightman would reject. Conscious experience is not a product of physiological matter. Therefore, consciousness refutes materialism. Theistic view therefore posits that the destiny of personal consciousness is not determined by the laws of matter, but instead by the purpose of the living God as the cosmic consciousness. That is the destiny of personal consciousness. We are enclosed within and nested within the divine consciousness. That is the source of immortality. That is the theistic view. God is our immortality. God consciousness secures our immortality. So if you look at block 3, we'll take a look at the goodness of God and the concept of immortality. And we're going to look at abstract philosophy, we're going to look at practical living religion, and then we'll have some conclusions given to us by Brightman. Under abstract philosophy, God is committed to the eternal conservation of value and is in an imminent cooperation with all humanity for this purpose. God conserves value, God conserves personality. That's key for understanding right there from Brightman. God conserves personality. God conserves value and personality. Historically, it's impossible to determine exactly what happened at the first Easter. The resurrection of Christ is a symbol of immortality because we interpret it within the theistic worldview we've already studied, that we've already been taught by Brightman. But it is the believer's symbol of immortality. Under living religion, the existence of consciousness is a rational expression of the nature of the entire universe. The logic of faith is derived from our ideal nature and is that which is ultimately decisive for positing immortality. The self-consciousness within the logic of faith. That is our fundamental, decisive reference from the point of view of living religion. Brightman says rational purpose must guide all of our emotional sensate nature within this regard of an investigation into the concept of immortality. So we have a contribution from abstract philosophy, we have a contribution from living religion, which basically says that our ideal nature shall be preserved. And that leads us to note 3, and we're going to look at Brightman's conclusions. And Brightman says that believers posit the eternal weight of doxa glory as their motivational base. Eternity saves time by its telos of doxa glory. The law of spiritual community teaches us that immortality is a future life continuous with this life. It is a devotion to ideal value. It is a solution of existence at higher and higher levels, an ongoing solution of existence, a solution of overcoming the given. In other words, perfectibility. And then D, the all-important note D, theistic finitism posits conditional immortality, conditioned on God's goodness. It is God-empowered. Resources within God provide the assurance of immortality. It is God-judged. Those God judges capable are those who receive immortality. It is God-exclusive. Immortality is not inherent in every individual. It is God-indwelling. Immortality potentiality must be indwelt by the individual as a gift of God's goodness. Immortality carries the intrinsic values of horizon, eternal purpose, concrete hope, and the intrinsic value of personhood. So our spiritual personhood becomes an indwelling presence as a gift from the good God, and that is nested within the cosmic consciousness of God Himself. That secures our immortality for Brightman. So in this third moment, he more or less tells us that abstract philosophy teaches us that God conserves value and personality. Personality is a supreme value to God. God conserves value and personality. From living religion, we learn that our logic of faith is derived from our ideal nature, and that ideal nature is preserved and valued and conserved by God. And therefore we find out that those final notes there in 3.3 subpoint D, immortality is God-empowered, God-judged, God-exclusive, God-indwelling, and therefore, per Brightman, it is an assurance for the believer. It is an assurance for the believer. So we get some great content on basically block 1 is a transitional moment out of theodicy question. It's the reinforcement of the subjective side of theodicy. But if we participate in the true that is true at all times, if we participate in the eternally true that is true at all times, and experimentally posit that true, and then go out of ourselves and desire toward ideal, and then reshape and reform ourselves in the return moment of interpretive construction, and continue in that dialectic of faith, Brightman concludes that forces us onto the notion of immortality. He says that forces us onto the notion of immortality. If you combine the objective answer to theodicy coupled with the subjective answer, which is that logic of faith, and we could say this again and again and not say it enough, but that logic of faith as experimental positing, outgoing desire of ideal, return moment of interpretive construction. From there, we take that next faith step into the concept of immortality. So this lesson draws on the previous work done in answering the theodicy question and posits the notion as an assurance of immortality for Brightman. It's going to wrap up this lesson from pages 380 to 410. We'll pick up next time on page 411.